Hello and welcome to our first instructional video. Today we're going to cover Chapter 2. This is going to cover all of fractions. To start, let's take a look at what a fraction is. A fraction is just a part of a whole. So for example, if I have a pizza here and I cut that pizza into 4 equal pieces, let's say I eat one of those pieces. What I have then eaten is 1 piece out of 4, and this is our fraction. What we have now is up top, this is our numerator, and down below, this is our denominator. The denominator is how many equal pieces our whole was cut into. So in this case, our pizza was cut into 4 equal pieces, so our denominator is automatically 4. Our numerator is how many of those pieces we have, or how many we're looking at. In this case, we're looking at that 1 piece that I ate. Right? So our numerator is 1. Another example, let's say I have a candy bar, and that is cut into 8 equal pieces. Right? And I eat, say, 3 of these pieces. Right? My fraction to represent this would be 3 pieces that I ate out of 8 total pieces. Let's go back to this pizza example for a second, and say instead of cutting it into 4 equal pieces, I had cut this into 8 equal pieces. Right? That same amount of pizza that I've eaten is now 2 slices. So if I were to represent this now as a fraction, I've eaten 2 pieces out of a total of 8 pieces. Well, this is still the same amount of pizza that I ate earlier, which we said was 1/4, and now it's 2/8 just because of how I cut it. These two numbers are called equivalent fractions, right, because they represent the same amount of something. Right? 1/4 of the pizza is the same as 2/8 of the pizza. So what we see is 1/4 equals 2/8. They are called equivalent fractions. To avoid confusion, we usually want to write our fractions in lowest terms, which would be the 1/4 here. Lowest terms, it has the smallest numbers. So we want to take a look at how then do we convert something like 2/8 back into the 1/4. Before we can learn how to write our fractions in the lowest terms, we first need to take a look at fractions as a division problem. Fractions can also represent division problems. For example, if I wrote 4/2, what that means is 4 divided by 2, which is 2. So 4/2 is equal to 4 divided by 2, which is equal to 2. Okay? So let's keep that in mind as we look at 2/8. So if I have 2/8, what I'm looking for is a factor that will go into 2 and into 8. A factor is just a number that multiplies evenly into a number. So a number that multiplies into 2 and into 8. The largest number that will do that is called my greatest common factor, and that number is 2. So we can see here that 2 is equal to 2 times 1, and 8 is equal to 2 times 4. Well, we have this factor of 2 out now, and this is 2 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and what we see here is 1 times 1/4, and anything times 1 is equal to itself, so 1 times 1/4 is 1/4. What we'll eventually do is we can go straight to our answer. Take 2/8, we see here we have a common factor of 2. I'll cancel out that common factor of 2 here. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 8 4 times, so what that gives me is 1/4. So I'm just canceling out then those common factors of 2. Let's do an example of this with pitch. You can see pitch if you're taking a look at a rooftop. Right? It is the rise, right, of the house compared to the run. Right? Where the run is the distance from the center to the edge. So that distance. Okay, and here's our rise from the top to, right, this base here. So if this rise were 4 feet and this run were 16 feet, right, the pitch would be equal to 4 over 16. Now I want to represent this pitch in lowest terms, so again I need to take a look at 4/16 and write that in lowest terms. So here my greatest common factor is 4. 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 16 4 times, and I see here my reduced fraction is 1/4. So my pitch is 1/4. Another thing we can do with fractions is compare them. I want to know, well, is 2/3 bigger than, say, 3/4? Which fraction is larger? Well, I can find that out by something called cross multiplication. What I do is I start with my lower numbers here, my denominators, and take that and multiply it by the diagonal, right? Multiply it by the numerator of the other fraction. So here 3 times 3 gives me 9. Here 4 times 2 gives me 8. Right? I compare now these numbers, the 9 and the 8. My 9 is larger, which means that 3/4 is the larger fraction. Okay? Just by comparing these numbers, the 9 is larger, so my 3/4 is my larger fraction. Now fractions have a few different ways that they can be written. They can be written, right, as a proper fraction. That is what we've been looking at so far. 1/4 is a proper fraction. Proper fraction is when your numerator is less than your denominator. You can also have improper fractions. Say, for example, 5/4. That is when your numerator is larger than your denominator. And we also have mixed numbers. Mixed number is when we have a whole number, say 2, and a fraction, say 1/8. So this is a mixed number. It has a whole number part and a fraction part. So this is 2 and 1/8. One thing we can do with fractions is convert, say, our improper fractions into mixed numbers and vice versa. We'll start by taking a look at 5/4 and convert that into an improper fraction. To convert this into a mixed number, we need to divide 5 divided by 4. So we mentioned earlier, a fraction is a division problem. Right? So I can take 5 divided by 4. 4 goes into 5 once, which we have gives us 4 down here. Subtract that, we're left with a remainder of 1. So now, right, there's nothing left to bring down, which means this 1 up here is our whole number part, and this 1 down here is our remainder. We take our remainder, and that becomes our numerator, and we take what we were dividing by, the 4, and that becomes our denominator. So 5/4 is equivalent, right? It's the same as 1 and 1/4. We can also go backwards, take our mixed number and convert that back into an improper fraction. So if I have 1 and 1/4 and I convert this to an improper fraction, I want to start with my denominator, 4, multiply that by my whole number, and then add my numerator to it. That's 4 times 1, which is 4, plus 1 is 5, and that gives me my new numerator, and my denominator stays the same at 4. We'll try another example, say 2 and 1/8 that we saw earlier. I take 8 times 2, which is 16, plus 1 is 17, so that is my new numerator, and 8 is my denominator. So 2 and 1/8 is the same as 17/8. Now let's take a look at multiplication of fractions. Say I was looking for 1/4 of the number 3. If I took 3, cut it into 4 equal pieces, and I wanted one of those pieces, how much is that? Right? So 1/4 of 3 is actually asking us 1/4 times 3. To multiply fractions, right, I'm going to multiply straight across. If I have a whole number, you can change any whole number into a fraction by putting it over the number 1. 3 over 1 is the same as 3. So we saw before with division, 3 divided by 1 is 3. So 3 over 1 is that whole number 3. So I can take 1/4 times 3 over 1. Right? And if I'm multiplying, I multiply again straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. It's my new numerator. And 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, multiplication is one of the easiest things to do with fractions. So let's take a look at another example. 2/3 of, or times, 4/5. What I get here is 8/15. Okay, so just simple multiplication straight across. 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 5 is 15. One thing I can look out for when I am multiplying fractions is if I can reduce before I multiply. So let's take a look at 2/5 times 10/4. Okay, what I see here, right, is this cannot be reduced, my 2/5, but my 10/4 can. It has a common factor of 2. 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 4 right, 2 times. So I'm left with 5/2. Well, also with multiplication, I can cancel diagonally. Right? So here I have a common factor of 2 diagonally. 2 goes into 2 once, and into 2 once. 5 goes into 5 once, so 5 goes into 5 once, and into 5 once. So all I'm left with now is 1 times 1, and 1 times 1. 1/1, which I then reduce to its whole number of 1. So we found 2/5 times 10/4 is equal to 1. So that is multiplying fractions. Division of fractions is eerily similar. If we want to divide fractions, let's take a look at that. If I'm dividing fractions, let's say I have 5 divided by 1/2. Right. Again, I want to change my whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Right? And then with division, I want to convert this division problem into a multiplication problem. Okay? What that means is I'm going to rewrite this into 5/1 times 2/1. Any division problem of fractions, right, dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. Right? Reciprocal is just flipping that fraction. So now I multiply and I get 10/1, which is equal to 10. If we take a look at another example, let's say we have 3/4 divided by 2/9. We're going to change this into a multiplication problem. We have our 3/4. We're going to multiply it now by the reciprocal of 2/9. So my denominator becomes my numerator, and my numerator becomes my denominator. Now I multiply. 3 times 9 is 27. 4 times 2 is 8. I check to see if this can be reduced. 27 and 8 have no common factors, so that is my final answer, unless of course I'm asked to write this as a mixed number. In that case, right? Again, I take 27 divided by 8, right? 8 goes into 27 3 times, with 3 left over as my remainder, and that same denominator of 8. So 3 and 3/8. Let's take a look at addition and subtraction of fractions. This is quite simple as long as you have the same denominator. If I had 5/8 and I subtract from it, say 2/8, right? All I'm doing is, since these are pieces that have been cut into the same amount, right? Say I had that pizza cut into 8 equal pieces. I have 5 of those pieces, okay? And I want to take 2 of those 8 equal pieces, right, away. So now these I give back, and I'm left with 3 pieces of the pizza, right, out of, again, my total of 8. So when I'm subtracting fractions, all I'm doing is looking at the numerator. 5 minus 2 is 3, and the pizza is still cut up into 8 equal pieces, so I keep my 8. If I had, say, 3/5, and I add that to 2/5, right? 3/5 plus 2/5, I add the numerators. 3 plus 2 is 5. My denominator stays the same, and I have 5/5 of whatever I was looking at. Say a pizza cut into 5 pieces. I now have the whole pizza, which is 1. 5 over 5 reduces to 1. Say I have 7/9 plus 3/9 plus 2/9, and then let's go ahead and take away 4/9. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm adding all of my numerators and then subtracting this last one. So 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 2 is 12, minus 4 gives me 8 out of, right, those 9 equal pieces. So that always stays the same at 9, 8/9. Now I won't always have the same denominator. Sometimes I'll have different denominators. Say I had a pizza, right, that was cut into 4 equal pieces, and another pizza that was cut into 3 equal pieces. I eat one slice over here and one slice over here. So if I have 1/4 of a pizza and 1/3 of a pizza, I want to find out how much pizza did I eat. I add these together, but wait, right, my denominators are not the same. To fix that, right, I need a common denominator. I need my least common denominator, or least common multiple, of 4 and 3. Multiple, right, we're looking for a number that 4 will multiply into and 3 will multiply into. In this case, the number 12. 4 goes into 12 3 times, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. So if I want to rewrite this fraction with a denominator of 12, I need to multiply it by a fraction, right? 4 times 3 will give me that 12. And if I don't want to change the value of my 1/4, I need to multiply, right, the numerator by 3 as well. That gives me, I'm multiplying by 3 over 3, which we saw earlier is just 1, and 1 times anything is itself, so I'm not changing the value of that fraction. I do that to the 1/3 as well. 3 times 4 gives me 12, so I multiply the numerator by 4 as well. This now gives me, right, 1 times 3 is 3, 4 times 3 is 12, and I'm adding that to here. 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12, and we get 7/12. So by eating this 1/4 of a pizza and 1/3 of a pizza, it's the same as if I had eaten 7 slices of a pizza that had been cut into 12 equal slices. Now I won't always multiply, right, those denominators together. In that last example we saw 4 times 3. What if I was adding 1/4 plus, say, 3/8? Now here, right, again, I'm looking for my least common denominator, a number that both of these denominators multiply into. Well, in this case, I don't have to multiply 8 times 4 to get 32. What I can do instead is recognize that 4 will go into 8, right? Just by multiplying it by 2. So, I can multiply this fraction, right? 4 times 2 will give me that same denominator of 8 that I have over here. So I multiply the numerator by 2 as well. And I don't have to change this other fraction. So what I now have is 2/8 plus 3/8. Right? Now I have that common denominator and I can add my fractions. I cannot add fractions if the denominators are not the same. I must have, right, that same denominator. So now 2 plus 3 gives me 5, and my denominator stays the same. So I see 1/4 plus 3/8, I get 5/8. You can also do adding and subtracting of mixed numbers, right? Say 2 and 3/8 plus 4 and 1/2. Now if I were adding these together, right, I can add just my whole number parts together, 2 plus 4, to get 6. And then I can add my fractional parts, 3/8 plus 1/2. Well, again, I need a common denominator, so I need to multiply this by, you guessed it, 4 over 4. Right? That will give me a common denominator of 8. So this fractional part becomes 4/8. And now if I'm adding these together, 3/8 plus 4/8 gives me, right, my new fractional part of 7/8. So 2 and 3/8 plus 4 1/2, 6 and 7/8. We'll practice with that more in class. Make sure you print off the homework for this chapter, and we will work on it together in class. Feel free to go back through this video to take a look at any part of it again. Take notes, and I will see you in class.